Today we changed the timing belt and water pump on the Civic. So here's the timing belt kit. Water pump's living somewhere back in the back of the garage right now. Water pump is leaking, so it's time to do the necessary maintenance. Now the power steering pump is loose. As you can see, there's one bolt up top, one bolt at the bottom on this bracket that holds the power steering all together. We're going to try to keep all these hoses together and just lift everything out of the way. So I've already kind of got the belt loose and ready to come off. So hang on to that. We'll be reusing it later. The funny thing is, we just finished doing the power steering rack in this car, so all the power steering fluid that we just drained out is only a few weeks old. Hooray! Okay. Now I'm working on the power steering pump bracket and AC pulley, which is this. You have to remove this in order to get this back off. Here I'm removing the upper timing belt cover and rotating the crankshaft to set the engine at top dead center. This is important when removing the harmonic balancer. And here we're using this Honda crank pulley tool to hold the engine at top dead center while we remove the crank bolt. And it takes a lot to get that thing to break free. I wanted to take a moment to pause here to point out the Woodruff key. This holds your crank pulley in place, and it's a very important part, probably one of the smallest on the car. Don't lose this piece. Okay, so now that we have the crank pulley off, or the harmonic balancer, I can take the lower timing belt cover off with these 10 mil fasteners here. There's one here, one here. There's one right there. Another one right here, right next to coolant leak. This is next to come off. Alright, so now we have the lower timing cover off, and the next step is to remove the timing belt tensioner, which is this bolt right here. It should be at 12. So that's the next step. We'll be looking at undoing that bolt, that bolt, that one down there, and I believe there's another one on the bottom of this pulley here. Let's see if we can see that from the bottom. Just barely. Okay, so here's the old water pump. Again, it's not that old, really. It's really only got about 20,000 miles on it. But you can see that there's RTV in here. You see that? So these things have a gasket. There's really not a whole lot of need to throw RTV on there anyway, so we are not going to be putting any RTV on the new water pump. Okay, this is the new water pump that we'll be using. And we had this laying around from when we used to own a Del Sol, and we were going to change the water pump in the Del Sol and never did. So, here's the new one. versus new. We're going to leave this one just like it is so that we don't have to worry about the RTV. So one thing we just noticed that was kind of interesting is the fins are completely different. So there's holes here for coolant to flow through, but the fins might look the same from this angle. Now you can see that these fins are probably a little better than these, but this is brand new. We've been beating on this one a little bit with a hammer. Don't feel like cleaning the gasket all out of there, so we're going to go with this one. Just wanted to kind of point out the differences between these fins to push or pull coolant through versus these. Very interesting design. If anybody has any idea why they do that or what's the deal, comment down below. Let me know. I am genuinely curious because I do not know. Okay, we just got the tensioner, timing belt tensioner back on, and this bolt here gets torqued to 33 foot-pounds. And new spring from the tensioner. Oh, focus. There we go. Got a brand new spring, brand new tensioner. Timing belt is back on, and now it's time to start putting everything back on, starting with the lower timing belt cover. And we'll get the alternator all put back where it wants to be, and all the power steering stuff. And the crank pulley back on there. And zoom in. That's that little notch where the Woodruff key sits. Without that, you're dead in the water. Okay, time to start putting everything back together. So the first thing to go back on was the upper timing belt cover. We ended up adjusting the tensioner one more time, and I've had an issue with my old valve cover leaking and having like seepage right around here. So I had a buddy that had this other valve cover, so I just used this so I didn't have any leaking, and I just see now that I actually need to put those back on. She was pretty much ready to go. Topped off a little bit of coolant, and that was about it. So, car runs great. I'll give it a start up here in just a minute.